A former slot technician just revealed the biggest timing mistake that 99% of players make, and it's costing them thousands. What casino insiders are saying about when you play will change everything you thought you knew about slots. Jennifer walked into the Bellagio on a Tuesday afternoon and watched a man in a Hawaiian shirt hit a $10,000 jackpot on Lightning Link. The bells rang, the lights flashed, casino employees gathered with paperwork and congratulations. Jennifer waited patiently near the machine, pretending to play a neighboring slot while watching the commotion. The moment that lucky player collected his money and left, she practically sprinted to claim the seat. It was still warm. She told herself this was perfect timing. A machine that just paid out big would surely pay again soon, right? 40 minutes later, Jennifer had lost $2,000 waiting for her turn that would never come. This is timing mistake number one, playing right after someone hits a jackpot. According to former floor managers, this single misconception drains more money from casual players than nearly any other behavioral pattern. The belief is everywhere in casinos. You can see it in the way people hover near machines after big wins, the way they lean in and watch the reels, calculating when to make their move. But here's what those former employees want you to understand about how slot machines actually work. Every single spin is generated by a random number generator that operates independently. That jackpot Jennifer witnessed 5 minutes earlier has absolutely zero influence on what happens next. The machine doesn't need to recover money. It doesn't owe anyone a win. It's not warming up or cooling down. Each spin exists in complete isolation from every spin before it, determined by mathematical algorithms that former technicians say most players fundamentally misunderstand. Industry analysis suggests players waste an estimated $8 to $12 billion annually chasing this myth across casinos worldwide. But casinos absolutely know about this belief, and former employees reveal they exploit it deliberately. Winners hitting jackpots near entrances aren't accidental. They're strategic positioning. Those big wins happening in high-traffic areas where hundreds of people witness the celebration create a feeding frenzy of players who desperately want that same machine. Documentation from insider reports includes cases of players who literally camped out near machines that just hit major bonuses, refusing to leave the area, watching whoever sat down next with envy and impatience, waiting for their chance to claim what they believe is a hot seat. Some players have reportedly waited over an hour for access to a machine they watched to pay someone else, convinced their timing would be perfect. And if you think playing after a jackpot is bad, wait until you hear about the timing mistake that former employees say is even more costly. Marcus started his Saturday afternoon at the MGM with a reasonable plan. He had $800 set aside for entertainment, and he sat down at Buffalo Gold with a comfortable $2.50 bet per spin. The first 20 spins went fine. Small wins here and there, a couple of bonus triggers that paid modest amounts. But then the machine went cold. 10 spins without anything meaningful. Then 20. Then 30. Marcus watched his credit meter drop from $800 to $650, then to $500. He could feel it building. That sensation every slot player knows. The machine had to hit. It was due. All these losses meant something big was coming. At 45 spins without a significant win, Marcus made the decision that former slot technicians say destroys more bankrolls than almost any other single action. He increased his bet to $5 per spin. His thinking was simple. If the bonus was about to trigger, he wanted maximum value from it. When another 15 spins produced nothing but losses, he went to $10 per spin. The machine had taken too much money to walk away now. It had to pay. The mathematics of the situation demanded it. 23 minutes after that first bet increase, Marcus had lost $1,800. He left the casino in a daze, trying to understand what happened. This is timing. Mistake number 2, increasing your bet after several losses. The due for a win fallacy that bankrupts players every single day in casinos worldwide. Here's the technical reality that former slot technicians desperately want players to understand. Slot machines operate on return-to-player percentages, typically ranging from 87% to 92% depending on the denomination and casino. These percentages are calculated over millions of spins, and they represent a fixed mathematical relationship. If you're playing a machine with 90% RTP, You lose 10% of every dollar wagered, regardless of bet size. Betting $10 per spin instead of $2.50 per spin doesn't change that percentage. Well, it just means you lose $1 per spin instead of 25 cents per spin. Internal casino reports, according to former employees, show something devastating. Players who increase bets after losses deplete their bankrolls approximately 340% faster than players who maintain consistent bet sizes. The machine has no memory. Previous losses create zero influence on future spins. The random number generator doesn't know you've gone 45 spins without a bonus. It doesn't care that you just lost $300. Each spin exists in complete mathematical isolation from the spin before it. But casinos design their machines to encourage exactly this behavior. Former technicians reveal that bonus triggers are calibrated to create what insiders call almost moments. You'll see two scatter symbols land, and that third one will stop just above or just below the pay line. You'll watch the reels slow down in a way that suggests something big nearly happened. These near misses are programmed into the game design specifically because they create the psychological impression that you're close, that persistence will pay off, that increasing your bet will help you capture the win that feels so tantalizingly near. The documented consequences are brutal. One case that made its way through insider reports involved a player who started at $1 per spin during a losing streak, then went to $5, then $10, then finally $25 per spin, convinced that the machine's cold streak meant an imminent reversal. He depleted $4,000 in under an hour. The machine hit a bonus feature on his final spin. It paid $180. Before I reveal mistake number 3, and this one shocked even veteran casino employees, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe and let me know in the comments. Have you ever increased your bet during a losing streak? What happened? Now, you might think chasing losses with bigger bets is as bad as timing mistakes get. But mistake number 3 involves something 99% of players do right when they finally start winning. Robert couldn't believe his luck when dancing drums hit. 3 bonus symbols lined up perfectly, triggering the free games feature, and he watched in amazement as the credits climbed. $340, $520, $680. When the bonus finally ended, his meter showed $850 from a $75 buy-in. His hands actually trembled as he looked at the total. This was it. This was the session he'd remember. He could feel it in his entire body. He was hot. The machine was hot. Everything was aligned perfectly, and walking away now would mean abandoning a winning streak that could turn into something truly legendary. 90 minutes later, Robert pressed the cash out button and collected a ticket worth $40. This is timing. Mistake number 3, playing through your wins while you're hot. The illusion that destroys more winning sessions than any other psychological trap in the casino. Former employees say this might be the most heartbreaking pattern they witness, because players literally hand back every dollar they've won, convinced the entire time that they're making the smart choice. Here's what former slot technicians want you to understand about what they call house edge erosion. That $850 Robert won didn't change the fundamental mathematics of the machine he was playing. If dancing drums runs at 90% RTP, which is typical for that denomination according to insider data, then every subsequent spin still gives the house a 10% advantage. Robert's win gave him a temporary surplus, but the moment he continued playing, that surplus began eroding at the mathematically predictable rate. His $850 became $800 after 20 minutes, then $600, then $400. The longer any player continues after a win, the more certainly the house edge reclaims what was paid out. Multiple former casino workers report being specifically trained to identify winners who stay at their machines. These players receive priority attention from cocktail servers, floor supervisors who stop by to congratulate them and make conversation, and comp offers for restaurants or shows that encourage extended play. According to insider analysis, approximately 87% of players who hit wins exceeding $500 give back 70% or more of that win by continuing to play in the same session. The casino doesn't need to cheat or manipulate anything. They simply let mathematics do exactly what mathematics does when given enough time. But players interpret their wins as evidence of hot streaks. This is the gambler's fallacy operating in reverse. 2 bonus features within 40 minutes feels like momentum, like the machine is delivering, like continued play will yield continued rewards. Former technicians explain that bonus frequency is typically calibrated to trigger once every 100 to 300 spins depending on the specific machine and its volatility setting. Getting 2 bonuses close together is variance, not pattern. The machine isn't hot, it's random. And that randomness will regress toward the mean, which always favors the house. The brutal mathematics reveal themselves clearly when you calculate expected loss. If Robert hit that $500 win and then played another 100 spins at $2.50 per spin on a 90% RTP machine, he's mathematically expected to lose $25 from his winnings. But variance means the actual loss often runs $100 to $200. And former employees say players routinely give back the entire amount because they're chasing the feeling of that first big hit, convinced it will repeat if they just stay long enough. And if you think giving wins back is frustrating, wait until you hear about the timing mistake that costs players money before they even sit down. Diana marked every Saturday on her calendar the same way for almost 2 years. Casino Day. She'd arrive at Caesars around noon, find her favorite bank of Lightning Link machines, and settle in for what she called her weekly entertainment. 4 hours minimum, sometimes stretching to 6 if she felt good about how things were going. She'd bring snacks, order drinks, chat with the regulars who occupied neighboring machines. It felt social, relaxing, like her version of a spa day. But when tax season arrived and she reviewed her bank statements to calculate gambling losses for deductions, the numbers staring back at her made her physically ill. 6 months of Saturdays had cost her an average of $1,200 per visit. She'd walked out of the casino each week feeling roughly even, maybe down a couple hundred at worst. The reality was devastating, and it revealed timing mistake number 4, playing in long, uninterrupted sessions. According to former casino employees, time on device is one of the most obsessively tracked metrics in the entire gaming industry. Internal data that reportedly made its way through insider channels shows something remarkable. Players who exceed 2-hour uninterrupted sessions have loss rates approximately 280% higher than players who take breaks and divide their play into shorter windows. The mathematics explain exactly why Diana's perception diverged so dramatically from reality. At $3 per spin, most players average around 600 spins per hour. Over a 4-hour session, that's 2,400 spins. Multiply 2,400 spins by a $3 wager, and Diana was putting $7,200 into action every single Saturday. On a machine running 90% RTP, which former technicians say is standard for that denomination of Lightning Link, her expected loss was $720. But variance pushes actual results into ranges between $1,000 and $1,500, which matched her bank statements perfectly. What former pit bosses reveal about casino environmental design makes this timing mistake even more insidious. There are no clocks visible on gaming floors. Windows are either absent or covered. Oxygen systems are allegedly calibrated to keep players alert. Seating is engineered for comfort during extended periods. Lighting remains constant regardless of whether it's noon or midnight outside. Every single element is designed to dissolve time awareness and encourage players to remain at their machines far longer than they consciously intend. One former floor supervisor explained that casinos rate player value primarily on session length, and comp offers deliberately favor players who demonstrate willingness to play for 4, 5, 6 hours straight. The casino actively rewards the behavior that mathematically guarantees the largest losses. But there's another factor former employees say most players never consider. Decision-making deteriorates after 90 to 120 minutes of repetitive action. Mental fatigue sets in. The careful bankroll management that felt easy during the first hour dissolves. Players start increasing bets without the same deliberation. They chase losses more aggressively. They ignore the stop-loss limits they set before sitting down. Documented cases include a player who regularly played 8-hour weekend sessions and lost $47,000 over 14 months without recognizing that the sheer duration of play made those losses mathematically inevitable. Former employees report that breaking that same 4-hour period into 2 separate 2-hour sessions with a 3-hour break between creates natural stopping points where players cash out leave the building, and regain perspective. The total time gambling might be identical, but the psychological reset reduces variance exposure and prevents the slow erosion that comes from marathon sessions. And speaking of session strategies most players get wrong, mistake number 5 involves something you probably do every single time you walk into a casino. Kevin told his wife the plan made perfect sense. They were spending 3 nights in Las Vegas for their anniversary, and he'd set aside $3,000 specifically for gambling. $1,000 per day, carefully calculated to ensure they'd have fun without financial stress. He withdrew the entire amount before the trip, carried it in his wallet on the flight, and felt the weight of those 30 crisp $100 bills against his chest as they checked into the Wynn Thursday afternoon. By 11 p.m. that same night, $2,400 of it was gone. He spent the remaining 2 days of their vacation with $600, rationing $20 bills, watching his wife try to enjoy shows and restaurants while he sat consumed by regret and shame. The anniversary trip became a silent nightmare, and it revealed timing mistake number 5, bringing your entire bankroll at once. Former casino employees describe this as the all-in approach that eliminates every natural protective boundary. According to insider accounts, casino hosts specifically encourage high-value players to establish substantial credit lines or arrive with large amounts of cash precisely because it removes stopping points. When Kevin had $3,000 in his wallet, his decision-making operated differently than it would have with $500. The psychological concept called availability bias means the money that's immediately accessible creates permission for larger bets, extended sessions, and aggressive loss chasing that players wouldn't attempt if they'd physically limited their access. That $3,000 wasn't meant to be spent on Thursday night, but its presence made Thursday night's catastrophe possible. Former technicians explain the mathematics of session division versus total access. A player with a $1,500 weekend bankroll who divides it into 6 separate $250 sessions creates natural evaluation points. After losing $250, there's a mandatory pause. Return to the hotel room, retrieve the next session stake, evaluate emotional state. But carrying all $1,500 means that first $250 loss flows immediately into the second, then the third, then complete depletion without any forced reconsideration. Analysis from Insider Reports suggests players who divide bankrolls physically have approximately 60% lower probability of losing their entire amount compared to players who carry everything at once. But there's an even more insidious pattern that former security employees report witnessing constantly. Players arrive with modest amounts, $300 or $400, which feels responsible and controlled. Then losses hit. The ATM becomes their next stop. Then another ATM visit, then another. Security monitoring systems track these patterns specifically, and casinos actually prefer this behavior over players arriving with large cash amounts because ATM desperation creates emotional decision-making that disciplined bankroll management prevents. Documentation exists of players making 6 or 7 ATM withdrawals in a single evening, each one representing a fresh failure of self-control, each one driven by the feeling that recovery is just one more session away. One case that made its way through insider channels involved a player who established a $10,000 credit line for a Thursday through Sunday trip. He accessed the entire amount Thursday evening after mounting losses, convinced that the additional funds would let him win everything back. He spent the remaining 3 days of his vacation with maxed credit and 0 playing funds, the trip completely ruined by a single night's devastation that wouldn't have been possible without total access to his bankroll. This brings us to timing mistake number 6, which is so devastating that several casino employees told me they actually felt guilty watching it happen. Timing mistake number 6, playing while intoxicated or emotionally distressed. According to former employees, intoxicated players have loss rates approximately 300% to 400% higher than sober players, but here's where it gets really dark. Patricia's husband died on a Wednesday morning in October. The life insurance check arrived 3 weeks later, $18,000 that represented his final gift to help her manage the mortgage and bills while she figured out her next steps. On Saturday afternoon, still numb with grief and unable to sit alone in their house with his empty chair and unworn shoes, she drove to the casino because it was somewhere to go where noise and lights and movement might quiet the screaming silence in her head. She sat down at dancing drums around 2 p.m. and didn't stand up until after 8 p.m. Casino employees watched her feed $100 bills into the machine with shaking hands, tears streaming down her face, ordering drink after drink that she consumed without seeming to taste. When she finally stumbled away from that machine, she'd lost nearly everything. $18,000 reduced to $640 in 6 hours of playing while emotionally devastated and increasingly intoxicated. Former cocktail servers report being specifically trained to prioritize players showing heavy action. And the free drinks aren't hospitality. They're strategy designed to impair judgment at the precise moment money is being wagered. But beyond intoxication, what former employees say haunted them most were players gambling during extreme emotional states. Grief, stress, celebration, or any psychological vulnerability destroys the loss aversion instincts that normally create natural stopping points. Industry analysis reportedly shows players under emotional distress or intoxication display bet escalation rates 4 to 6 times higher than baseline, chasing feelings rather than wins, medicating pain rather than seeking entertainment. Now you know what 99% of players do wrong, but here's what you should do instead. Never play after witnessing jackpots. Random number generators make timing irrelevant, so just find any available machine. Keep your bet size consistent throughout every session. Set the amount before you sit down and never adjust based on wins or losses. When you hit 50% profit or more, lock half away physically by walking it to your car, hotel safe, or different pocket. Limit sessions to 90-minute maximums with mandatory 2-hour breaks between them. Only bring one session's bankroll, leaving the rest secured away from the gaming floor. Never play after consuming 2 or more drinks or during emotional extremes, whether sadness, stress, or even excessive happiness. Following these timing rules doesn't change the house edge. Mathematics still favors the casino. But these boundaries reduce variance exposure and prevent the catastrophic decision-making that transforms entertainment into financial devastation. One former floor manager admitted, "Something striking. Players who set time and emotional boundaries are the ones who last years as customers. Players who ignore them rarely last months." Documentation exists of a player who implemented these 6 rules and reduced average monthly losses from $2,800 to $600 while maintaining the same play frequency, simply by controlling timing rather than chasing systems. Now you know the 6 timing mistakes that 99% of players make and exactly what to do instead. Subscribe and let me know in the comments about your personal experiences with these mistakes. Share this with anyone you know who plays slots. This information could save them thousands.